And I think that guy is kind of the epitome of everything that is wrong at Manchester United. We like to think ourselves as advocates of the Coppa Italia. We keep our ears to the ground, waiting for it to appear and try to cover it. But those wily buggers at the FIGC keep us on our toes. Halfway through your lunch break at work, boom, Cremonese versus Cittadella. We'll catch them up eventually, I swear. Welcome to the Anglo-Italian pod. As always, my name is Rory, and I'm joined by my very good friend,
Adam. Hey Rory, it is very much cup fever here as well, because not only do we have the Carabao Cup to talk about, we've also got the upcoming first round of the FA Cup taking place from tomorrow or this evening if you're listening to us on Friday. So Rory, are you excited for the first round of the FA Cup?
I am pretty excited. Without getting into it before we get into it, I kind of was reminded that the Alex had Derby at home.
Yeah.
And it's kind of not the easiest tie that you would like in the first round. It's kind of a bit of a big tie, really, for the Alex.
Yeah.
But a potential there for us to get a result. I think Derby are not having the greatest time. We're doing pretty well in League Two at the moment, touch wood. So yeah, once I saw that tie, I was like, you know what? I am looking forward to FA Cup first round weekend. And if the Alex actually managed to get past it, I feel like it would be the first time in about 10 years we've actually won an FA Cup game. So fingers crossed. It would be quite nice to have a bit of a cup run. We haven't really had many of them. Are you excited? Wickham, Bradford away, is it?
Yeah. Unfortunately, not the glamour tie of an unleagued ground or, somewhere different. But yeah, Bradford, I mean, again, similar kind of situations. Derby, perhaps, the big club that have fallen on bad times and not doing so well. They sacked Mark Hughes, of all people, as their manager recently. So they're still in search of a new manager. And yeah, I suppose we kind of see that as an easy win to the next round, potentially. But I'm not taking it for granted because, do you know what? FA Cup is what it is. It's got the feeling of a, underdog potentially winning as well. So yeah, let's wait and see. We'll see how my feelings are by 5 p.m. on Saturday evening, that's for sure, Rory.
Yeah, well, exactly. Only time will tell. But this episode, we do have plenty to cover, really. Yeah. As we said, we've got a bit of FA Cup first round action to talk about. We've got Carabao Cup action to talk about. I don't really want to talk about it, but we will. And we, of course, do have the Coppa Italia to cover as well, which made a return this week with a big name from the past. Maybe on the rise. We'll be looking at them. So we're going to take a very quick break, and after this, we will be back with the Carabao Cup.
Hi, my name is Dimi Konstantopoulos, and you're listening to the Anglo-Italian podcast.
All right, we are back, and it is time to talk about the Carabao Cup. It was the fourth round, fifth round, I don't know. It's the semi-finals next, round of 16. So, and... Well, are we going to start in London or are we going to start in Manchester? Adam, you can decide.
Well, should we get the inevitable out of the way and talk about Man United first? Because I'm sick and tired, as you said offline, about talking about them. But
let's talk about Newcastle instead. Let's talk about Newcastle instead, and then we'll do a bit about Manchester. We don't really like talking about Newcastle either, but
not really.
A fantastic performance from Newcastle, a fantastic result from Newcastle, and especially when you think that they actually changed quite a lot in this game. We were talking about Eddie Howe not really changing as much and rotating his squad as much, and maybe that was taking a bit of a toll on Newcastle. But we saw the likes of Tino Livramento, who we've been talking about, Lewis Hall, who was the player whose name I couldn't remember, Paul Dummett coming in, Emil Kraft, it was his first game in about 2 years. Matty Target in midfield, but unfortunately had to come off injured early on. Matt Ritchie, there's a lot of players there that aren't necessarily first names on the team sheet for Newcastle, but still, nonetheless, absolutely fantastic performance. I think it really shows in general how well Nick Howe then. How much Eddie Howe has got the entire squad working on his system, right? It seems like everyone, at least on last night, everyone came in and knew exactly what their job was.
Yeah, and I think we'll talk about the contrast with Arsenal. But when you bring in your second string team, it's very hard to ensure that they've got the same momentum, same kind of intensity in terms of the way you want to play sometimes. because you're hoping that your second string will be kind of hungry to kind of try and force the issue and make themselves available for the next game or be in the first team, right, Rory? But Newcastle played really well. Livramento, we forget about how good a season he had at Southampton that many moons ago now, and it feels like another bargain signing. And when you looked at Lewis Hall's goal, for example, I was thinking to myself, boy, Man United could do with a left back like him right now, couldn't they?
Yeah.
Someone that's dependable, that would have been cheap as well. If you think about how much they actually spent on him, that could have been a fantastic backup for obviously Luke Shaw. But yeah, you think about the way that kind of Eddie Howe instills that kind of confidence within the team. It's not just the first 11, it's those around him. And I think that's what, helped Newcastle over the line. Whereas you've got the contrast of Man United, Eric Ten Hag, should I say, really struggling to get anything together. I mean, we could pick any player there, Rory, from Wednesday night and talk about how badly they've been playing. And I mean, Hannibal, for example, I'm surprised he was still on the pitch.
He's an interesting lad,
I do like him, but it's the tenacity that obviously needs to take a bit more control, right? I feel sometimes.
I think he's a very young player, and there's a lot of if you're coming into that team and you know that a lot of the team get tarred with the brush fairly or unfairly, I would say fairly, with not necessarily giving a shit and not really putting a foot in. You're a young lad, you want to make your mark on the team, you go flying into tackles, right? You want to be like, I'm all action, I'm going to do it all. The only thing is I've seen him do it every single game I've seen him play. He's like this, he seems quite reckless and quite he's a red card waiting to happen. And I'm sure that he's a player that when I have seen him, I've also been excited by him and been like, okay, he's he's got decent passing on him. He's able to avoid the press and he's
score goals.
Really, he is everywhere and he can hit them, right? But I just think the whole time, every time I've seen him, I'm like, he's just waiting to be sent off. He's absolutely waiting to be sent off. But before we go fully in on Man United, I wanted to give quite a bit of credit to some Newcastle players. Lewis Hall being one of them. I think for that to be your first goal, it was a hell of a goal. Really nice finish.
Hell of a finish.
Really nice finish. I thought Tino Livramento stepping in was fantastic. I think, as you said, with Trippier being 30, or the wrong side of 30 now, I think if Livramento can train with him, learn from him, there's a successor there straight away for when Trippier retires, and he just goes straight in. I think it's a really clever business there. As you said, he was fantastic at Southampton, so it's another exciting player for England as well. If you know what I mean, let's see how that goes. But I love Joe Willock. I'm so happy it's going well for him at Newcastle, and it was just a beautiful goal for him to score, and he absolutely loves it up there. I think it was the best move for all parties. Arsenal, he was never really going to get that chance. Newcastle, he's become not a main man, but he was for a while, and there's still that opportunity for him to become a key part of that midfield. I know the fans love him, and it was just a great finish and great to see him back. So I really, really enjoyed that. And I think, Joelinton just continues to amaze me, and that he's the same player that was brought in under whoever it was, Steve Bruce. I can't remember. So just so many players. You have to say, Eddie Howe has improved so many players at that club. He has, and this is the segue I want to go to. Eddie Howe has improved all of those players in that club. A lot of that squad are championship. They were with them in the championship, like Dummett and Kraft and stuff, right?
Richie,
exactly. And now they're towards the top end of the Premier League, not looking out of place. And then we come to Manchester United, where not a single player seems to have improved ever. Not since Ferguson has left. Do I think a player has consistently got better for Manchester United? I think players have had runs of form, like Rashford has had great runs of form.
Of course,
But you can't say that consistently he's really improved a lot because he just disappears like he has now, and he's done it over several seasons. I think this squad, there's so many players that I just think I cannot believe they play for Manchester United. I don't know how many times I have to say to people, Anthony is fucking shit. He's shit. And everyone I've talked to, no, he's got a great left foot. He's hit 3 left foot goals since he's been here. One of them was against City, so everyone seems to think he does it every week. Every facet of his game is terrible. Even Ajax fans, when he left Ajax, is it the European lad? Is it on Twitter who's the Ajax fan? He tweeted at the time saying Man United are willing to pay 100 million for him. Okay, fine, take it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, absolutely bite your hand off. Like, even in Eredivisie, he only got 6 or 8 goals that season. Like,
yeah.
And I think that guy is kind of the epitome of everything that is wrong at Manchester United. He's an overpriced player with no clear system of how he was going to work, what he's going to come into.
Of course,
The current problem of he's only there because he used to play for his manager. He's got zero discipline or temperament.
Yeah.
He's got no end product. And he's just all show. Like, the reason that they signed him, apparently, was because he can do that daft thing of spinning around with the ball, which it looks like a trick a seal would do at an aquarium. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Water
like,
park,
I just think, honestly, he's the epitome of everything that's wrong at Manchester United. And I think Bruno Fernandes is right behind him in terms of the epitome of what's wrong at Manchester United. And I just thought he was a disgrace. I think Anthony Martial should be studied on how to graft people out of millions of pounds, because he has been there so long and done nothing. And at no point has anyone ever said, like, there's the door, mate, like, off you go. He went on loan to Sevilla last year. They knew they weren't getting rid of him. Sevilla didn't even bloody want him. United probably paid his wages the whole way through that.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, all of it is just fucked. Yeah. It's like, at what point does this get fixed? Like, and I'll let you go in a minute, but your opinion on the future of Erik ten Hag, because for me it is untenable now. For me, this is the players have down tools. They are not working. They are not trying. They know they're going to be there longer than him. But Manchester United will not sack him because they're in the midst of a buyout, right, or of someone investing. And then even if they do sack him, who do you get who is going to make the slightest bit of difference? What do you think about this? But it feels to me like that was a particular low point last night.
Oh, yeah, I think they needed a win on that night, and that really doesn't help his cause, or it doesn't help Man United overall, right? I've said it for weeks. I would have sacked him ages ago, personally. Mm-hmm. That would have been me. But granted, given the scenario you've got, he's better off just staying as much as he can. Like, there's no loss for him, is there, at this moment in time? I think the job is far too bigger than one person going in there and changing it. However, it feels like there's a toxic atmosphere that has been lingering there, and it's kind of like it's kind of shun all of the managers that have been there since the Fergie days. So you saw obviously the kind of atmosphere and resentment towards David Moyes in those early days. There was that resentment around Louis van Gaal when he came in. Obviously, his football wasn't pretty, but they did win things, right?
They did win quite
you can criticise him for all you like, but he won things there. Then they obviously turned to a multitude of caretakers before they eventually got, I think it was Jose, if I'm right in the thinking by that point. Jose turned them into winning stuff, and they were second behind Man City. So in that summer, they should have invested then and supported Mourinho. Whether you like his philosophy or not, he would have got you big names into that squad. Mentality would have changed, and potentially you would have moved on a few of the players that were lingering there, and they are still there to this day, right? So it goes down to that kind of philosophy of what they're trying to achieve with certain players that they've signed this summer, like you alluded to with Anthony. Where do they actually fit? Like, Rasmus Højlund is such an exciting talent, but you need time to nurture him, and he's probably the only shining light right now for their kind of spark or the future.
I'm so afraid of what that club is going to do to him. Honestly,
exactly.
I'm genuine. Like, we're looking at a really, really exciting young striker who was like tearing up Serie A in the limited games that he had, right? Because he was injured, but when he was playing, he was tearing it up, and you can see already, like, Erik ten Hag, when he needs a goal, he did it against Man City. He did it when they were like, he takes him off.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's surrendering the game at that point. And I think at a certain point, Højlund is just going to go, what's the point? Like, I'm the one guy who's running, busting a gut up front, making chances, getting shots, and I'm still getting taken off. Like, I feel like I'm really afraid of what could happen to him at that club.
Yeah, he needs someone that can give him the support. And I think the problem you've got is I would ship out all of the players if you could. But I think the problem you've got, Rory, is who's going to buy those players? Realistically, I mean, we're saying they're terrible. Like, what team is willing to spend at least 30 to 20 million just to ship those players or get them into their squads? Like, I don't know who's willing to do that. I mean, even they had the opportunity to ship off the likes of Harry Maguire. Now, I'm not his biggest fan, but that was a huge opportunity to just get him off the books, like give him a fresh start.
And for him, West Ham would have been a great move. It would have been a great move for him.
Exactly. And this is the problem that I think they've got now, is that they've got players that they're having to rely on that they don't necessarily trust and then don't buy into. So what is the point? What is the actual point? You might as well just play the youth team and just put a few bodies around them, and that's it, literally, and just consolidate for the next few seasons, because they're not going to get anything out of this squad. But to the point, look, Erik ten Hag, I don't feel like he's naturally evolved over this time period since he's been at Man United. He doesn't inspire me. He doesn't fill me with confidence that he's going to be the man to lead them going forward either. And I think that's when you want someone in this kind of critical point where it's not working well, you kind of hold on to that kind of comfort of he's changing something, he's trying to do something, right? And I don't see that. And we can have that kind of comparison to Arteta, right? I think you and a lot of times probably Arsenal fans weren't too sure about that kind of angle, right? And there's been a lot of scrutiny. I myself probably would have said Arteta would have gone out the door if I was the chairman. However, granted, Arsenal put the trust because they knew there was a whole process thing, right?
You could still see the idea. Even when we went on that horrific losing streak during lockdown and I kicked the TV and everything got really Nordic crime drama and dark, you could still see what the idea was. And there was a direction of travel and there was like, okay, he's getting rid of these people. You could see the vision. You were just like, it's really hard to make out at the minute, but you could see it there. As we've said so many times with Ten Hag, I think I just can't see what his idea is. I can't see what his end goal is beyond make Manchester United great again. I don't know what his actual object, like how he wants to get there. And I think it's just he's been caught between this, like, trying to be this authoritative figure, but I also think his man management at times has been fucking terrible. Yeah. And I think, like, he's got the authority of a substitute teacher. I think I said it on Monday. Like, he's just... Yeah. I think the players just do not like him. And when he's tried to put his foot down... Like, I always remember with the Marcus Rashford, he was 2 minutes late for training, right? Or 2 minutes late for a meeting, and he got dropped for the game, right? Yeah, and it was a huge thing. Yeah. And it was like, oh, look at him. He's like stamping his authority. But then Man United were losing at half time and he brought on Rashford. Yeah. And instantly you're like, Rashford then, and all the players go, okay. He doesn't really mean it though, does he? Because the second we're in trouble, we're just going to get back in the team. He's going to have to rely on us, I think little things like that just chip away at your authority. And I also think the fact that and I was listening to Righty's House today, which is a great podcast, by the way, and they made a really good point. Have you seen him make more than one facial expression?
Probably not. No, actually, no. He looks the same every time. He might occasionally shout. That's the only time where I see his expression change, right? But other than that, no.
There's nothing. You get nothing from him. And I think the players must sometimes just go to give us something, mate. Like, give us... Like, you
inspiration,
need,
right?
I'm not saying you don't need to be like Arteta fucking running up and down the touchline.
No, but you've got to be encouraging, right?
Off, but something that's like, just something. Because I think if he's like that, maybe it's just for the cameras and it's like, I'm just not like, poker face so they can't read whatever. But I can imagine that's what he's like. And all of a sudden, like, you've not got that connection to the manager. You've not got, like, you don't know where you stand. You don't know, like... I don't know. I think his man management is terrible. And my last point on this, and I'll see what you think and if you agree. I think once he does go, or when he goes, or when Jadon Sancho goes, it's going to come out that Jadon Sancho has been mistreated there, I think. Because I think Jadon Sancho has a point in the fact that Anthony was consistently getting picked ahead of him despite having piss poor performances.
That I can agree with. Yeah,
Like I think that's completely fair. Look, I don't know what he's like in training, but the way I saw it was, if your manager comes out in public and slags you off in public, I think you have the right to stick up for yourself.
Yeah.
I think you have the right to turn around and go, no, wait. You can't just say what you want. Like, I think, and all the narrative I saw around it was, well, it's your manager, so shut up. Like, maybe that's why I never get high in companies, but like, that's the only narrative I saw. And I thought, no, he's got every right to turn around and go, if he thinks that Erik ten Hag's in the wrong and Erik thinks that he's in the wrong, then why doesn't Jadon have the right to turn around and go, no, I'm not having that? And then for him to now turn around and say, you're completely exiled. You can't even have lunch with your teammates. He's having like a packed lunch in the thing. He's not even like, it is. I think it's going to come out that he's been so mistreated. And Jadon, come to Arsenal. I will take you in a fucking heartbeat, because I promise you, any player that leaves Manchester United, Bruno Fernandes, any of them, the next club they go to, they fucking smash it. I'm telling you. Because it's just not the right environment. Like, how do you feel about his man management in general? I think it's
I think his man management has been called out before as well. If we take it back to Cristiano Ronaldo, and I know that was a bit more controversial in terms of the circumstances of, he was letting him kick him out of the club because he didn't necessarily buy into him, didn't want the big ego, etc. And to a degree, we know there's an ego with Ronaldo, right? But I think when he
to a degree,
look, there is
a rather large degree, but yeah.
But the thing is, you got to remember, he came back to Man United knowing it wasn't the same Man United that he first joined, right? He came there with a mission to try and bring them back to its former glory. It never works out, right? But in that first season, he was the top goal scorer. Whether you like it or not, he was the top goal scorer. And with handsomely, some decent contribution there. Now, what he said on his exit was that he didn't feel like Erik ten Hag inspires his team. He doesn't feel like he actually understands. And also, I think the big point that has been drawn upon is that when he was at Ajax have a tradition of playing a certain way, which I feel covered what actually is the ability of Ten Hag personally. And I think it's coming to a bit more light now around what his man management skills actually are. So what I mean by that is, like, look, Ajax play a really decent brand of football, and they did that in the Champions League. They surprised a lot of teams, and I don't dispute that there would have been a little bit of an influence by Ten Hag. However, a lot of it was down to the complexion of, you've got a good squad as well. So a good
You've got
number
the academy.
of individual
they've been playing
players.
that football since they were 7 years old, right?
Matthijs de Ligt, you had De Jong, you had obviously Frankie de Jong. There was obviously Tadic, who was brought in that season. Onana, Hakimi. There was loads, essentially. Danny Blind was there as well, if you remember. Yeah. So they had a nice little blend of experience, but I don't necessarily think that was all Ten Hag's doing in terms of their progression in that Champions League run. And, what they did in Eredivisie was very good. But again, I don't think it was as competitive as it was now, for example. No. So when you take him out of that environment, I personally don't think he is necessarily the best coach out there around, personally, for what they need to do. Because I think, actually, he's not a individual that can do an Alex Ferguson and change the way you do things.
But also, you don't get Alex Ferguson.
No. But I think you need a certain individual when you're going into a big job like Man United, right? That's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think he was a man that you could look at his experience and go, do you know what? He's going to bring success.
No, they were. I think they were taking a risk on a. They were rolling the dice on a manager that had done. I don't want to be too revisionist about it, so I think he had done a very good job at Ajax. That team played very good football. I was very excited about that team.
Yeah,
but also, looking back at it now, there has to be a conversation about how none of those players have really kicked on and done better since. I think the only exception might be Frankie de Jong is the only one where you can say he's gone and he's hit higher levels and he's become what we expected. But Van der Beek, De Ligt, a lot of those players have just not lived up to it at all. So I think there's a conversation there as well. But I think, they were taking a chance on an exciting new coach, and I think they underestimated how pragmatic he is. I don't think he's a total football manager. I think he did that because he's at Ajax and that's what you do. But now he's got this club that has zero identity, and there's no, there's no Man United way, really. There was the Alex Ferguson score in the 95th minute, if you know what I mean. But like, the club's lost whatever identity it had, so now it's just him like playing pragmatic football. I think that's what he's trying to do. I don't know. It's just not clear. So I think the interesting thing is that I think he's going to be there the entire season. I think it could weirdly work out. It could, if they just stick with him and let Jim Radcliffe come in and they get a director of football and they bring in the staff around him and maybe then Ten Hag turns it around and maybe then it's like the background helps him. The only issue for me is that his transfers have been atrocious. Like, he has picked those players.
He's picked the players like Anthony as well, for example. Yeah. So that's the problem.
He's wanted those players, and they've not been good buys. So I think the reason why it was so successful at Ajax as well was because they had Mark Overmars until he started sending pictures of his dick to the secretary. Of course, Like, and he was an incredible director of football. Like, he was amazing. He
was talented.
So I think because I watched the HITC Sevens thing on what on earth is going on at Ajax, which is really good, by the way, because obviously they're bottom of every division now. And they made it perfect, or he made it perfectly clear on there just how key Mark Overmars was to that as well. So I think Erik Ten Hag was very reliant on his backroom staff and the people above him to be doing their job. And obviously at Manchester United, they're not. I now realise we've nearly hit the 30-minute mark and we've only talked about Manchester United. And it's just every bloody week. We're going to have to rebrand as a Man United podcast at this point. But we do need to say congratulations, Newcastle. Sorry, Newcastle fans. Like, a genuinely an amazing night. The Newcastle fans were having a great time. The atmosphere was unbelievable. They were all laying in the first half. It looked great. I was very impressed with Newcastle. It's just, you're not the headline. I'm sorry. But we're going to move on to the next game. I think I'm ready for it. West Ham 3, Arsenal 1. This was just one of those nights, man. It was just one of those nights. The second Ben White scored that own goal, I went, it's going to be one of those. Yeah. It's going to be one of those. Half-time, West Ham were 1-0 up with an XG of 0.00.
Yep.
They had a single shot and they were 1-0 up. Now, that isn't necessarily fair because they were the much better side than us. If I have to, honestly, I was just sat at the telly doing, stop passing it backwards. Like, all we did was get the ball, turn and pass it back. Get the ball, look, turn and pass it back for 90 minutes. It was insane. Now, obviously, Arteta rotated the squad. Ramsdale in goal. Kivior, who I thought actually did pretty well. He came in at centre-back, left-footed in the right centre-back role. Arteta doesn't usually like that. Zinchenko came in. I need to talk about Zinchenko. The midfield was too lightweight, I think, between Fabio Vieira, Havertz, and Jorginho. We just lost that midfield battle completely. Eddie Nketiah was anonymous, which is what he's prone to do. And then Reece Nelson actually played pretty well, I think, until he got hooked. And Trossard did sod all. But my issue, before I talk about West Ham, because I was very, very impressed with West Ham, Zinchenko can't defend.
This has always been there in the background, to be fair. And I think he always adapts this left back wing play kind of position, but actually he's not very good defensively. He was put there as a temporary makeshift. He's more of a midfielder, let's be brutally honest, but he's played out in the wrong position. Should be Kieran Tierney right there, to be honest. That's my thoughts.
I can't, like, the first goal, the first goal, so the corner doesn't happen if Zinchenko tracks his runner. So Gabriel has to make up gets his head to it, and he points to Zinchenko and he's like, you could just see him in English going, fucking hell, can you mark your man? Like, it's your guy. The Kudus goal, the second goal. Zinchenko's not tight enough to him and gives Kudus all the time in the world, then gets done by him. And then all of a sudden it's 2-0. The third one, like, let's be honest, we had to score 2 of West Ham's goals for them.
You did,
like, West Ham was still very much the better team. I think Arteta underestimated West Ham, or maybe just didn't really give a shit about this competition. I'm not sure which one it is. I think he expected more. Yeah, it is a shame. It is a shame. I think he expected more from the players he put out there, obviously. The only thing that was concerning to me from an Arsenal point of view was the lack of application. It was just so casual. It was just really casual. And I kind of got the feeling that, we've just won 5-0. This will be another one. We'll just rock up and we'll just get it done. And I'm almost glad this has happened ahead of the Newcastle game, because that is not going to be an easy game. We're going away. We need to be full strength, fully switched on, and at it. And I think this might be a wake-up call we need. The only other silver lining, Martin Ødegaard getting a goal. I know it sounds daft, but Ødegaard has not been in the greatest
done much,
form.
has he? No.
And him getting that goal could actually be massive. I think it just gives him that bit of like, it was the one time we played football over the 96 minutes and we scored. And I was like, why didn't we do that 10 minutes ago? But it was good for him to score. So I think that's the positives. That's it. For West Ham, though,
brilliant.
Kudus and Paquetá and Alvarez and Bowen.
Yeah.
Not suddenly. They've spent that Declan Rice money so well. I just need to put that out there. The way they've spent that money is incredible.
Yeah.
Their midfield absolutely ran us ragged. Absolutely ran us ragged.
Yeah.
Kudus roll from going from midfield and making those runs, winning the ball back. We loved him when he was at Ajax, right? We talked about him a lot.
Yeah.
We can't wait to see this guy in the Premier League. I'm so glad he's killing it at West Ham. I thought he was fantastic. Paquetá is a lovely player to watch. He's just incredible. When he did the rainbow flick, I did want to break both his legs. But he's a lovely player to watch, right?
He can be. There's always been that kind of bit of quality that we knew from the AC Milan days and obviously Lyon as well, and it was just unearthing that to be a bit more consistent. And obviously there was that element of how does he fit into this David Moyes squad, because that doesn't feel like a natural fit.
It doesn't feel like a Moyes player.
But he's proved that he can do all of the work that David Moyes has set him out to do, to track him back, obviously. And he's had to bide his time. I believe from Natalie Jedra, she kind of reflected on that. She did an interview with him, and he said, look, when he joined, he constantly was just learning and developing his kind of skill set in terms of his gameplay. And when you've got a player that's that hungry, that really benefits everyone, doesn't it? And it's not just him personally, but obviously the squad is reflective of how they're doing so well. But the one player I think you've also alluded to, Alvarez, I think when you think about Ajax position, he's a very good midfielder who can break up the play. He's almost a great replacement for Declan Rice in that respect. He's been so perfect in the fact that he's slotted in without having much time to because a lot of the time when you have foreigners that come into the game, they take a little bit long, getting adapted to the pace, but he hasn't. He's adjusted really well. And, with Kudus as another one, he gave him time to settle in at West Ham. He didn't necessarily put him on straight away, which, I think maybe that was the learnings from Skamaka potentially, where they
it's very good management. It's good management.
So I think, with Kudus, he was a natural fit. He was going to do really well in the Premier League personally. I thought he was always going to do that, whether that be at West Ham or elsewhere. But what a signing he's going to be. That finish and just the control for that first touch was incredible. I'm surprised, Rory, that someone like an Arsenal didn't decide to go and just take a cheeky bid on him, because I think that would have been so well worth the bid.
I think we're going to regret not doing that because we were linked with him, and I was like, just get him now.
Yeah. Given that you sold
with
Balogun to Monaco as well, that money could have been recuperated and put into that.
No, it's a frustrating one, that. But I think for West Ham, incredible signing. I think Bowen again. Every time he plays, has bloody problems. He's just an unreal player. Just never stops. His end product, he's always dangerous. I feel like his end product has improved so much over the last 2 seasons. His end product has got a lot better. He's still improving. I think the only area where I think West Ham need to now improve, and it's a problem that has haunted them for about 20 years. They need a striker. They can just never buy strikers, West Ham. Every time they buy a striker, it doesn't really work. And I think they still need to fill that hole. Because I think Mikel Antonio, as good as he is, he's getting older, and he's not going to get you 15 goals a season. I still think that's the one hole in their squad where get that, and then you really start pushing.
But I think that's the Kudus. Kudus is that signing, providing he stays there more than just the one season. Because I think he's going to be picked on from next season. But Mikel Antonio, he's a typical Moyes type of player as well. So I think what will happen is we'll see how he plays for the rest of the season. And potentially Moyes might start looking at who's the replacement for an Antonio-like player. potentially someone that can run and maybe not score too many goals, but if he can get someone that can score goals, then he'll do that. Again, he might be clever and shrewd and look at the free transfer market as well, see who's available.
Well, down in the Championship, he likes going down to the Championship, doesn't he? So I think, that's the one hole in their squad, I think. But for West Ham, they're becoming a bit of a cup team. They're becoming decent in knockout competitions. Obviously, Conference League last year. They're now into the semi-finals, quarter-finals of the League Cup, and they're really putting some form together in the cups, and a win they massively needed. That was 3 losses in a row for them, I think it was. So they needed that win. Huge, genuinely, absolutely outclassed us. It was insane. But we're going to leave that one there, I think. Elsewhere in the cup, Liverpool beat Bournemouth 2-1 with the funniest goal. Is that Darwin Núñez summed up in one goal? The worst first touch known to man, and then the best finish known to man. It's insane.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I still like the guy. I think there's a lot about him.
I think
honestly, he's going to get better and better in time, but he still has that in his locker where he'll look like Bambi on ice sometimes, where he's controlling the ball and then miraculously just turn a bit of skill on. But yeah, I think the thing that you saw from last season is he's getting a lot more composure when it comes to those kind of last minute finishes and, just that last minute decision making. I think he's getting better with that. And he's got more custom with the squad as well, hasn't he? He's becoming more adjusted to the way of working as well. So yeah, I can see this being really exciting coming towards the end. And the other thing, Rory, is if you take away that Spurs defeat, they have been literally unbeaten across most of the competition so far. So could we be seeing Liverpool winning this competition, given that there's no Man City, there's no Man United, there's no Arsenal? Chelsea aren't particularly great, to be honest. I know there's still Newcastle to potentially navigate past, but I would say if you were going to have them as a final pairing, I would still fancy Liverpool over Newcastle on the day.
And look, we're seeing Jurgen Klopp 2.0. I think this is his second team start forming now in front of us. This is the next Liverpool team that will be challenging for titles, and I think they'll be challenging for it this year. I think people are sleeping on them a lot. They're a very, very good team. And I think that's how Klopp will like it. Nobody talking about them. They can just be in third, quietly getting their business done, and they are going to make a push for it. I absolutely tell you. Absolutely. I'm glad they're doing well. I do like Liverpool. And then elsewhere, Everton beating Burnley 3-0. A resurgent Everton. Can't stop winning. Tarkowski scoring against his old team. Amadou Onana finally getting a goal. It feels like he should chip in with a few more, but obviously a very, very good player. And then Ashley Young in the 92nd minute to get the win there. Chelsea beating Blackburn Rovers 2-0. Badiashile scoring on his return from injury. Lovely little moment that. And Raheem Sterling getting the second. Nothing really of note there. I think it was a fairly comfortable win for Chelsea. We have Ipswich Town. They made 11 changes to their team. They definitely did not want to be in the Carabao Cup. Definitely focusing on the Championship, I think, as they're still in second. That's understandable
because they're quite high up, so they could be in the Premier League next season.
I think they are 5 points clear in second last time I looked, I think. But Fulham getting a 3-1 win to go through there. And I've not really mentioned it because they're Cruise rivals, and I'm kind of pissed off they're doing it.
Yes, I was going to say Port Vale,
quarterfinals. I'm really annoyed. They beat Mansfield.
They did have an
1-0.
easy-ish tie, it has to be said.
They did. Yeah,
they had
beat
Sutton
Mansfield
United in the previous round. Then they had, obviously, Mansfield Town, and now they face Middlesbrough.
Somehow they're in the quarterfinals, and they will be playing Middlesbrough at home. Yep. I guarantee you they win that, and they will get a big tie, which is good for them. I just don't like Port Vale, obviously. And then the last one, Exeter 2, Middlesbrough 3, in a bit of a banger of a game there, which got Middlesbrough through to their glamour tie away at Port Vale, which the fans will be bloody Burslem. Jesus, good luck, boys. But they did get past Exeter 3-2 in the longest journey of the Carabao Cup, I think, Exeter to Middlesbrough. Jesus.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a similar kind of distance for a tie in the FA Cup, but I won't spoil it yet, Rory. I'll get the listeners to guess what that could be.
I like it. Well, we're going to leave the Carabao Cup there. the Mickey Mouse Cup that doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
We're going to leave it there, and we're going to go to the Coppa Italia, where it all kicked off this week. Cremonese indeed kicking off during my lunch break against Cittadella on Tuesday afternoon. Salernitana, it looks like it could be curtains for Andrea Pirlo. He is getting under a lot of pressure at Sampdoria. Salernitana winning 4-0. Giovane Cabral getting a goal. Remember the name, guys. I'm still excited about this guy. I'm hoping he's going to get a bit of form together. But when I've seen him, I've been pretty excited by him. But the game we actually want to talk about, really, is Lecce 2, Parma 4. I think it's the closest to a giant killing in this round, really, or the only giant killing. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm looking at the fixtures. I would say
Frosinone currently beating Torino. But, the only giant killing of the round. And it was a bit of a mad one. Parma go 2-0 up from Som and Boni. You need to check out the Boni goal. It's an absolute banger from miles out. Just batters it. And then Lecce managed to get themselves back to 2-2 in the 76th minute. The Strefezza goal is another beautiful goal. We know what he's like. He's a class player. He gets them back into it, and you think, okay, they've woken up now. The Serie A team are going to get this done. But no, not quite. In the 94th minute, Pongracic scores an own goal as Dennis Mann, a player that I've been very excited about for a while. A long time ago, we had a Romanian journalist on called Emmanuel Roșu, who was talking about Romanian players who were coming into Serie A. And there was a few in Parma, and Dennis Mann was one of the ones he was talking about. He said, if he's in Serie B, he'll do really well, but I really hope he gets to Serie A standard. Well, he was absolutely smashing it in this game. He's having a pretty good season overall. He puts the ball across for Pongracic to smash into his own net. And then there's a penalty in the 97th minute, and Dennis Mann steps up and scores the penalty. So technically a goal and an assist, or 2 goals if you're generous. And Parma flying. Not only have they knocked out Serie A opposition, but in Serie B, they are currently 5 points clear at the top. They've won 8 games, drawn 2, lost 1. In 11 games, they've scored 23 goals. So they're the highest scorers in the league by some distance. And they've only conceded 9 goals. So they are absolutely killing it. And under their new manager, I want to say his name's
Fabio Pescia, isn't it?
Pecchia, that's it.
Pecchia.
Fabio Pecchia. He's worked at Real Madrid as assistant manager. He's worked at quite a few big clubs. He's had a long career of coaching. I think this is him doing a really good job with a massive club, and hopefully we'll see Parma back. So it's just, I wanted to just put a spotlight on them, just doing really well at the moment. And they've got a really exciting young squad there. Like, it'd be good to, you're in your Parma shirt. You'd love to see them back, right?
I'm donning them. Yeah, I'd love to see them back just for nostalgia reasons. I think, they've been missing in Serie A and we know there was that huge kind of financial aspect of their ownership, and that really did screw them over. They rebirthed
about 4 times.
Yes. They came back as a reformed Parma, it has to be said. And, they did come back into Serie A, but they weren't special when they did make that return. Unfortunately, they made a few bad decisions in terms of managers that were leading them. They got rid of the manager after their first season, even though he did respectably really well. I've forgotten who his name was now, but in that first season, I think they were like 13th in Serie A. They decided to get rid of him because it wasn't high enough for them. And the following season, they got relegated, right?
It's like Greek myth. Who is it who flies to the sun? Oh, I can't remember his name now.
I thought you were going to say that's Graziano Pella, because obviously he was a striker.
Exactly. But no, I've got I really like Parma because me and friend of the show, Tom, he came out to Milan to visit and we went to Parma for the day. So we thought, we've got to go and see the stadium, right? We've got to go see the stadium. It's Calcio heritage. So we went to the stadium and the gate was unlocked. So we just walked in and we went into the stadium. We were like stood walking around the steps and that, and like around all the seating and whatever. Looked at the pitch, thought this is pretty good. And then we came out, and as we came out, we saw like this little museum, and we were like, oh, we'll go and look in the museum. And the board were having a meeting there, and we like just walked into like the board meeting, and they were all like, oh, can we help? And we're like, oh, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. But they were so nice. They like showed us around the museum and talked around everything, like interrupted their board meeting just to be like, oh, this is Parma, this is our history, this is this, this is this. Honestly, unbelievable. And we left, and we were like, okay, like, sorry to interrupt. And then they just got back to their meeting, and we were like, oh, that's quite nice. Ever since,
nice.
I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Parma. So it'd be nice to see them, hopefully, back in Serie A soon, killing it in Serie B. Lecce obviously won't be too bothered about the Coppa Italia, but they should be. It's a big competition. I wish people cared more. Elsewhere, Udinese did their best to draw a game again, but they did manage to lose it in extra time, with Cagliari scoring a late second. And just now, Frosinone have beaten Torino 2-1.
Yeah.
And Ibrahimovic has scored for Frosinone.
Not that one.
Adion Ibrahimovic scoring, and Reina, who's been very good for Frosinone so far this year, getting a goal in the 98th minute. Oh, no, it's going into the second half of extra time. It's not official yet. It's the second half of extra time. So that is the Coppa Italia. I think we're going to talk FA Cup, Adam. No? FA Cup first round?
Yeah. Let's talk a bit of FA Cup, right, Rory? So we do kick off on Friday, as you hopefully are listening to us as we release this episode. And we start off with, Rory, Barnsley versus Horsham. That is the game to kick us off in this FA Cup round. Very big tie for Horsham. But we've got a number of ties, Rory, when we were talking offline about could there be a shock on the cards. We always like these little shocks of little teams doing quite well. I'm just going to go through a few that I think could be the games to look out for. So Bolton at home to Solihull Moors. We've got Cambridge United at home to Bracknell Town. We've got Chesham United at home to Maidstone, which could be an interesting one because one of the non-league teams will hopefully go through there. Then we further go down the list, and Oxford United at home to Maidenhead United, which could be an interesting tie there. We've got Reading at home to Milton Keynes Dons, so that could be a classic. We're not guaranteeing it there, unfortunately, Rory. The game that I was referring to earlier, Rory, where I was talking about distances. So you've got to feel for Gateshead fans. They've got to travel all the way to Somerset to take on Yeovil Town.
Oh my God, I've been to Yeovil, and it's like going to
middle
bloody
of nowhere.
Middle Earth.
Yeah, exactly. Middle of nowhere. It is incredible. The other ties just to watch out for on Saturday as well. Bromley at home to Blackpool, so that could be an interesting one. But the one I wanted to bring out, Rory, is the Sunday ties, which we've got Charlton Athletic taking I would say a tube ride, because it's not very long for them to go, and it's going to be televised, this match, but it's against Craze Valley Paper Mills. Had to look them up. But they are essentially two teams that formed in the 90s. They play in the Eastman League. They've got through a number of rounds to get to this stage. Fair play. We wouldn't have heard of it until the FA Cup draw, right? And the magic comes to play. So let's see how that goes. Obviously, you've got your very own Crew taking on Derby County. So let's see how that goes. Slough Town at home to Grimsby Town. Slough Town was a name that we haven't heard of for a number of years. But yeah, they are back in the big time in that first round. And then we've also got Chesterfield taking on Portsmouth. So
Portsmouth on a madness. They haven't lost since March.
Yeah, they came close to dropping points against Wickham until they got a late win against us at Fratton Park.
Their manager, Musinho, right? He's absolutely killing it.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. I've actually met John Musinho, believe it or not, Rory. He was an ex-Wickham player, very young, brought in by Peter Taylor at the time. And I happened to serve him in the O2 shop when I was working there. And it's just random story there. I got chatting to him, and he's a very nice guy, but he's a very quiet guy. So I never would have anticipated him to make the move to be a coach, shall we say, based on his playing days, careers. I mean, he was only 22, I want to say. He was released by Brentford at the time, came to Wickham, but he's done all right for himself. So let's wait and see.
Absolutely killing it at Portsmouth.
Yeah.
And just because I really like the name, I wanted to give Sheppey United a shout out. They're playing Walsall tomorrow or Friday. Yeah. They're in the same division as #United, or the same level as #United, which is a bit mad when you think about that. When it's like #United, they're like a YouTube experiment, and now they're like in the football pyramid. It's a bit mad, isn't it? But yeah, they will be hosting Walsall as well. It's a great name, Sheppey. I'm not sure where it is. It says it's in Isle of Sheppey, but that doesn't really help me. I'm not sure where that is. My UK geography, the second it comes to the south, is absolutely terrible. So I'm going to imagine it's somewhere down south. But yeah, hopefully there's going to be plenty of giant killings there, right?
I think
going to be
so.
a few. I think there'll be a few. I'm gonna pencil in. The Alex are definitely going to lose, but that's not a giant killing. I'm going to pencil in Oxford United to lose to Maidenhead. Why not?
Yeah,
Let's say
I think that's a good banker there. So get your money on that one, I think.
that is cracking. Great to have the FA Cup back. We will as well be releasing our documentary, if we're not sounding too grandiose about it. Our documentary, our groundbreaking documentary.
Groundbreaking.
On the history of the FA Cup with all-round legend that is AFC Finners. And Tommy's on that one as well, I think.
Yes.
So we will be releasing that across this weekend as well, so you can get in the FA Cup spirit. You can feel the magic of the cup. But we are going to take a very quick break, and we're going to give our weekend preview for the Premier League and Serie A right after this.
Hi, I'm Phil Brown, and you're listening to the Anglo-Italian podcast.
And here we are. It is time for the weekend preview, and we're going to start with, honestly, we are going to start with Adam. I'm going to send you to go in first while I wake up. Serie A weekend preview. Let's do it.
We'll start off with, hopefully, listener, this evening on the Friday, you are going to take in Bologna, take on Lazio. Lazio is starting to pick up some form here, Rory, but we do like Bologna, so
we love
this could be a draw. I feel this could be a draw. Anyway, we move into Saturday. We have got the Derby Sud, as you call it, I think it is. It's Salernitana taking on Napoli. So we'll see if there's any fans of Naples taking that journey to Salernitana. I suspect not, but that's at 2 p.m. if you do fancy watching that. But the big game potentially is later on. So we've got Atalanta and Bergamo hosting Inter. So a bit of a quiet ride for those Inter fans. Was about an hour, half an hour roughly to Bergamo, roughly. Yeah, so
this is a big one as well because Scamacca has started scoring again. He's back in the team. He got 2 last week. I think he could cause a few problems here. I think in obviously great win last weekend, or whenever it was, the 1-0 win that they got. When was that? That was a great win.
On Monday night, yeah,
exactly. Yeah, there we go. They got a great win, but I think Atalanta, they've had a bit of a slow start to the season, but steady. And I feel like they're starting now. Scamacca's back and fully fit. This could actually be a bit of a ding dong. And yeah, 2 teams that really, really don't like each other.
Yes, exactly. And then, if anything, hopefully, the Keteler, he's already done his initiation song. I don't know if you've seen it online.
It got sent on our Fantacalcio group today. Was the Keteler singing Rihanna, right?
Yeah. Under that umbrella.
Incredible.
But yes, let's see if he can help the AC Milan feel with some joy over this period. I suspect not. No. But then we move into the evening kickoff on Saturday evening. Milan at home to Udinese. Udinese, the draw specialist. We joke about it, Rory. Could they pick up a draw at the San Siro? There is a potential.
I think it's going to be a draw.
Purely because it's
I'm going to put my neck on the line and say it's going to be a draw.
We'll move into Sunday because it's not very exciting, I'm afraid, folks and Rory. Hellas Verona kick us off on Sunday against Monza at 11:30. Then we have Cagliari, who are back in form after today's win as well, or yesterday's win, should I say, in the Coppa Italia against Genoa. Then we've got Roma, who need to get something back on the board at home to Lecce before the late kickoff, and I'm definitely not going to endure this one, Rory. I don't want to do the reaction to this one, but Fiorentina versus Juventus.
I'm going to watch it.
I'm not going to watch the Juventus.
I just know it's going to be crap. And the thing is, Fiorentina are a really good side to watch, but just
they can be when they decide to turn it on. That's the problem. When they decide to turn on
as well, they've not really been as good as we'd hoped.
Really,
they've definitely been up and down this year, haven't they? So I think.
And just quickly to cap it off, Monday night we've got Frosinone taking on Empoli and Torino versus Sassuolo. So yeah, not a lot kicking off this weekend, Rory. But yeah,
I'm going to say
Saturday is the ones you want to look out for.
Low-key exciting game is going to be Cagliari-Genoa. I think that's going to be the game that actually could be pretty decent. 2 promoted sides from last year, roughly the same level. Both kind of got like fighting a bit, especially Cagliari, like you said, fresh off their first win. I think there could be a few goals in that game. I think that could be one to just keep a lazy eye on.
Let's see. If Genoa are 3-0 up by the 70th minute mark,
we know what's going to
what happens.
Yeah. We know what's going to pile on on Bet365. Just pile on. Nice, good. Then we're going to go to the Premier League, I suppose.
Let's do it.
Premier League. It all kicks off the early kickoff on Saturday. Oh, the whole world will be watching as Fulham host Manchester United, and never back the early kickoff. That's what they say, right? So that means,
of course,
you should back a United win because that's the least likely thing to happen, right? So maybe United do get the job done. Maybe they surprise everyone. Obviously, Fulham having issues scoring goals.
They do,
in general. Man United having issues everywhere, so it'll be interesting to see who has the least issues, I suppose.
Yeah. True.
Then going into the 3:00 kickoffs on Saturday, Brentford versus West Ham in a lovely little London derby. Brentford in form, West Ham with a big win. Both teams off the back of big wins. And I think this could be an interesting one. I get the feeling that West Ham's record against Brentford actually isn't that good. But it will be interesting to see if Brentford can continue, like if that Chelsea thing was a flash in the pan, or if they're actually going to build a bit of consistency.
I'm just quickly looking at this because I seem to remember there was a few suspensions for West Ham players in the last match against Everton, and Paqueta's missing, and so is Edson Alvarez.
Or Alvarez, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, no, exactly. That is big. They are two big misses. They are two big misses. So a big chance for Brentford there. Maybe there's going to be a bloodbath in Manchester as Man City host Bournemouth. That could be frigging anything. That could be a cricket score, honestly.
Yeah.
Sheffield United still looking for their first win. Will be hosting Wolverhampton Wanderers. Sheffield United now with the worst start in Premier League history. Yes, even worse than that Derby team.
Yes.
This is going to be a grim season for Sheffield United. Wolves looking very comfortable, having a lovely old time. I reckon they'll get a win there.
Yeah.
Burnley against Crystal Palace. These are the kind of games that Burnley need to try to win, but they're not going to win them. I think Crystal Palace are going to have enough to get past them. Roy Hodgson in a bit of trouble with his comments about some of the players after the game last time. He said he had to apologise to some of the younger players because he feels like he stepped out of line in their judgment of their performance, which I think is very graceful from him, as he is. But yeah, a bit of a disappointing season from Palace so far, I suppose. Then we have Everton taking on Brighton. Everton in sparkling form. Brighton not so much. So this could be a tricky one for Brighton. I genuinely think it could be a bit of an interesting game as well. And then the late kickoff is the Newcastle United slot. So of course it's the late kickoff on Saturday. Newcastle United will be hosting Arsenal. Last year, Arsenal played incredibly and won 2-0 and took the points home. I'm less confident about it this time. I do feel like midweek was a flash in the pan and we should be all right. We're actually still having a very good start to the season. But Newcastle, it's a tricky place to go, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's not going to be easy, is it, Rory? And I do not feel sorry for the fans that do decide to make their way up there because they've decided to walk up those steps to sit in the away end as well. So fair play.
It is like it is Everest up there. It's bloody horrible in the away end.
Yeah.
Then on Sunday we were trying to figure out if this is a derby or not, or we're just lumping everything together in the Midlands.
Trying our best.
Nottingham Forest taking on Aston Villa, and that is at 3:00 on Sunday. And then we have Luton Town hosting Liverpool. The biggest team they've had down there so far, I think. Spurs don't count, so probably the biggest team they've had down there. It'll be an interesting atmosphere. That a lovely Sunday afternoon. I do still think Liverpool will get the job done, but I think it'll be harder than you think. And then on Monday night, we have a London derby, Tottenham hosting Chelsea. Am I being foolish in thinking that Chelsea can take anything here? Am I just getting my hopes up?
Do we give them a chance? I don't know, because it's a Pochettino effect.
They played well against us.
Coming back, yeah. It depends which Chelsea side decides to turn up, right? And you would expect a bit more fight. I'm going to say it's going to be a draw. Personally, I think this could be a draw. It could be Ange gets tested here, potentially. But I'm basing it on hypothesis of, I want to say there might be a few injury scares, but I'm looking at the squad, maybe not. There's not much for either side, to be fair. So I think, on paper, I would say Spurs are the strongest side,
Spurs
personally.
are probably going to win it, aren't they? Frig's sake. When will this end? Right, well, that is our Premier League preview. If there are any Spurs fans listening, I doubt it. But if there are, I don't apologise. Right, we are going to go for the Mastermind Quiz. It's time for the Mastermind Quiz. So we're going to take a very, very, very quick break. We're going to set the tension, set the tone, and we'll come back with Mastermind. Good evening, maybe good morning, and welcome to the Mastermind Quiz. Smooth. This week we've taken a bit of a hiatus, but this week is my turn to test Adam and his knowledge. Now, Adam, are you ready for the two categories that you can choose from?
As ever, I want to do more than one correct answer this time, so
I feel like neither of us are really covering ourselves in glory in terms of like our trivia general knowledge with this. But, you know, both in the gut are looking at the stars. It's fine. So you have two categories to choose from. You have debut teams in Europe this year.
Okay.
Or you have FA Cup trivia. FA Cup history trivia quiz.
Are we talking clubs, players? What we're talking? Is it
all
overall?
Of the above.
All of the above. Let's go for FA Cup, given that it's in the spirit of this episode.
In the spirit of the cup. It's in the spirit of the cup. And you have to follow the spirit of the cup. Good. So I'm going to get the timer for 1 minute as I look at my phone like a boomer to try and get the timer. There we go. I've got it now. Good. Adam, are you ready?
Let's do it.
1 minute starting now. On January the 18th, 2005, Liverpool's Jimmy Traore scored a comical own goal, but who was it against?
Blackburn Rovers.
Oh, no. Which team was the first to win the FA Cup at the Cardiff Millennium Stadium?
Ooh. Liverpool.
Good one. What was the name of the company who became the first sponsors of the FA Cup?
Littlewoods.
2. Nice. Which club lost successive finals in the 1980s?
Nottingham Forest.
No. Who scored the final goal of the match in the 2006 FA Cup final to send the match into extra time?
Pass.
In 1972, the shock of the third round was the exit of Newcastle United. Which non-league club dumped them out?
Hereford United.
3, and that is a minute, Adam. That was bloody good. Fair play.
Thank you.
That Littlewoods one. Ooh.
I know.
Smashed it into the top
Blast
bin.
from the past, wasn't it? That one.
I would never have got that, by the way.
I was thinking Milk Cup. I was like all these different. I was trying to even think there's got to be like a cigar company that's probably sponsored them as well
Hamlet.
before.
Hamlet
or something like that. But, yeah.
That was an absolute screamer of an answer. So let's go through the answers, as we always do. On the 18th of January 2005, Liverpool's Jimmy Traore scored a comical own goal to knock Liverpool out of the FA Cup. Against which team? It wasn't Blackburn. They're going to be fuming you thought they were Blackburn. It was Burnley.
Of course.
I always just remember that song, like, he just can't control his feet. The Liverpool song. Liverpool fans started singing. Absolute banger. Which team was the first to win the FA Cup at the Cardiff Millennium Stadium? You answered correctly with Liverpool. What was the name of the company who became the first sponsors of the FA Cup? I think it's the best answer of this series, honestly. It was Littlewoods. You got that correct.
Yeah.
Which club lost successive finals in the 1980s? It was Everton. And who scored the final goal of the match in 2006 FA Cup final to send the match into extra time? It was Steven Gerrard against West Ham.
Of course.
And in 1972, the shock of the third round was the exit of Newcastle. They lost to Hereford United, who were, of course, in the first round this weekend. The other question, should we go through the other questions as like four more?
Why not? Let's do it.
Which team lost successive FA Cup finals in the 1990s?
Newcastle United.
Boom. Yes. Good work. This one's tricky, but in what year was the first FA Cup final? If you listen to our documentary,
yeah, that's it. It's going to be something like 1899, something like that.
Oh, 1872.
No.
It's always earlier than you think.
Yes, yeah.
The cup final of 2003 was won by a single goal. Who scored? I'll give you a clue. It was Arsenal-Southampton.
So who scored it, was it?
Yeah.
Olivier Giroud?
Oh, 2003? No, Bobby Perez. And what was unique about the 2001 FA Cup final?
Played in Wales, was it?
It was the first one to be
Cardiff.
played outside of England. Yeah, very good work. Nice. 3, Adam. We need to, we said we'd keep count. Obviously, I haven't caught count, so I kept count. So I'm going to have to go back and see who's won.
I think we're going to have to re-listen to our own episodes and work out. But I'm pretty sure, hypothetically, I think you're still ahead by the amount of answers you've given from that Crew Alexandria.
I think that really
round,
gave me a
it?
good start because I've got one each week since then. Like I
had a terrible round where I got 0. Zero, basically. So, yeah.
Well, guys, hopefully you are doing better at home. We can only hope for your sake that you are. Thank you.
Or you're being educated either way.
Oh, yeah, we'll take that. Yeah. It's an educational service we provide here. It should really be on the national curriculum, I think, is what we're saying. It should really...
that, or, those pubs that play quizzes, that's what they should do, is have us, asking questions. There you go.
I'll absolutely take that. I love a pub quiz. Good. Well, thank you for joining us, guys. We will be back on Monday morning, as ever, to review all of the weekend's action.
You sure you're going to be morning or evening?
Anything to say before we end the show?
We'll leave it at that end and just hope you enjoy the Cup Fever. The Cup Fever.
Oh, no, I have got a quote. Wait, I just need to find it on my phone. I saved it. Guys, I'm going to edit all this out so it'll be really seamless when you hear it, in theory. I can't find it now, can I? No, that's because it's the pictures I've taken. There was a quote from De Zerbi. What was it? Someone had it on the story. Piero Mingoya had it on the story, and now I've lost it.
I know which one you're talking about. It's obviously about the story that he's having a conversation with his loved one.
I've deleted it like an idiot. I don't have a quote. Fuck.
But I might be able to tell the listener the story. It's essentially he's talking to a loved one back at home, and he's talking about, he goes down the street and he sees kids dressed up in Brighton gear, and he gets nostalgic. He goes, how can I fucking leave this place when they're all so gunning for us to do so well? And that's how it is. A really beautiful quote, but
it's incredible.
He used some expletives at the same times, which was quite funny as well.
It is incredible. I still can't find it. Anyway, that was good enough. So you can join us on Monday night at 9:30 Italian time, 8:30 UK time, on YouTube and on Twitter. And as always, you can find us on Twitter at Italian Anglo Pod, on Instagram at Anglo-Italian Pod, on TikTok at Anglo-Italian Pod, and on YouTube, hit like and subscribe down here. And as always, tell a friend. I think that's everything. Grazie, a dopo.
Ciao, ciao.